Now today we have with us a new topic. Alright, it's called the elements of art. Alright, have you guys ever heard about the elements of art before? Yes, no? Have you ever come across the term before? Okay, so let me, if the answer is no, let me go through with you what are the elements of art. Now, the elements of art are the basic building blocks that artists use to create a work of art. Alright? Now, what does that mean? That means that without these elements, right, an artist or you cannot create your work. Okay? Now, what are the elements of art? The elements of art are lines, shape, form, color, texture, and space. Now, imagine that you are creating a work of art. Your work does not have line, it does not have shape, form, color, texture, or space. What kind of artwork would that be? Alright? So, in essence, we're saying without these, right, we won't have a work of art or a proper work of art for that matter. Because they all are important. Alright? And they all form some function in your work of art. Okay? So I'll be going through a few of this with you, and Ms. Adia will assist me with a few others. Now, line. Now, line is a very basic one. Line is basically a mark made by a moving point. Right? A moving point. A line made by a moving point. Now I know you know that there are different kinds of lines. Alright? You know, there are zigzag lines, there are straight lines, dotted lines, swirly lines, and so on. Can you identify for me 3 lines in this classroom? Show by raising of hands. Go Nathan. Straight line. Okay. Correct.
We have Christine next.
Yes, Christine? Curvy lines. Okay. Correct. One other person.
Narayan.
Yes, Narayan.
Any type of line you could just
You have a
list.
broken line? Okay, that's correct. Alright, so you see, so when you are, even though it's called art, right, you are still allowed to associate your surroundings and be very much aware of what's happening around you because it helps you to create your work of art. Okay? Okay, so let's move on to the second element of art. Now we have it as shape. Now, we cannot create our shape without lines, right? So that's why the elements of art, they depend on each other. Okay? So shape is a two-dimensional area defined by a line or a change in color. Alright? Now, shape, we have geometric shapes and we have organic shapes. What do we mean by geometric shape? Anyone can tell me what we mean by geometric shape? Yes, Ethan? Okay, a shape that has angles or that will be created by someone. Correct? Yeah? Yes, Anna? What do we mean by geometric shapes? A shape that is flat? Okay. Alright, so a geometric shape is two-dimensional. What does that mean? It means that it has length and it has width. Alright? And you can say it has angle, as someone said. Alright? Can anyone identify for me 2 shapes in the classroom?
Yes, John, let me have you.
Any 2 geometric shapes? Yes, John? You have rectangular. Okay, correct. And there's an obvious one in the class.
Sorry, Narayan. Square, yes, lovely, good job.
Square, okay, correct. Alright, now let's take a It's natural, alright? Came from nature, okay? And it was not man-made. Now when you look around you, you'll find a whole lot of them, alright? Starting from the plants and everything, right? Anything that's not man-made, alright? Now our third element of art is called color, right?
Before Miss move on, what are some can you give examples of some of the organic shape in nature? Now we have Sir Lorraine once again. Stem. Okay, that's great. Anybody else? No?
Correct.
Anything else? A pot? Okay, we can work with that. We
Okay.
can work with that.
Yes.
Yes, miss.
Well, that's not made, right?
Yes.
Okay. So let's go into our color. Now, color is a visual perception of light reflecting off a surface. Now, have you ever taken into consideration, have you ever wondered that without light, like if we were to turn on the light in here right now, we will see nothing, alright? It will be dark, darkness, right? Will be in here. And so we won't be able to see anything. But we already have a perception as to what is in here. So we obviously know we have blue chair and yellow table, right? But can you imagine a world without color or a world without light? Because the light allows us to see. Alright? So color has three important components. They are hue, which is the name of a color, right? We have value, which talks about the lightness or darkness of the color. And we have intensity. Intensity talks about the purity of the color. Alright? So those three factors, we have the hue, the value, and the intensity. Alright? And that's what makes up our color. Yes. Now, there are different varying colors, like primary and tertiary, so on that we'll learn in the future. Alright? But as you can see and we know, these colors are on the board. Can you invite me 3 colors in this classroom, students? Go, Christine. Peach, okay. Correct. Yes, Alia? Black, okay. So when you're going further into art, you will find out that black is not a color, alright? And yes, black is not a color. Okay. Right, okay. Yes, Nathan? Brown, alright, correct. Okay, so there we have our 3 first elements of art. Now I'll hand you over to Miss Adia, who will take you further along the other elements.
Yes, class. So the other element that we have here is form. Now form is a 3-dimensional object that has width, height, and depth. Right? Form is, for example, if it's something that you can feel. Right? Instead of, and also form is a 3-dimensional object. Right? So also it's something that you can feel. It's 3-dimensional. It has different shapes toward it. I'm actually looking for an example. Like this, for example. You see in the different sides. It has bottom or top. Right? And it has the depth that is inside. How deep does it go? Right? Good. And that's about form. Now we have some examples of form on the blackboard. Like we have sphere, we have cone, cylinder, cuboid. As for example, you can see the cuboids have the 4 different sides, right? And that we call form, right? The next thing that we have here is value. Value refers to the lightness, or to the darkness, right? So basically saying that, can you imagine if you're doing an art piece and it's without form? So let me explain. When it said from the lightest to the darkest, that means that whatever art piece you're doing, you have to make sure you include the values inside, right? So if your art piece do not have value, well then you don't have no art piece at all, right? So you have to make sure that you include value. I'm going to show you for an example. So we have from light to dark here. This is our value, right? So when you look at this picture here, can you identify some of the values here? Anybody could identify? Yes? Christina?
Yes.
Yes, you have dark. Yes. We have the light here, right? So as you can see here now, it makes it a form or you could easily identify, oh yeah, this is a ball, probably it's on the table or what's not, right? Then next we have texture. Texture refers to the surface quality of an object, whether it's smooth, rough, bumpy, or soft, right? So now there's a lot of texture. As you can see in the art room, you can feel the table. Feel the table for me. What type of texture are you feeling there? How does it feel? Smooth, yes, correctly.
Somebody
right?
says it's rough.
Somebody says rough? What?
Yeah.
Okay.
You have a rough table.
And what about the cheer? You can feel the cheer. Yes. Now there's all different types of texture, right? It feels soft, right? The cheer feels soft, right? Exactly, right? So we have the different types of texture like brass, wood, brick, marble, and there's a lot more, right? Good. Next we have space. Now space also refers to the area around or between the object. For example, we have here the face. Let me get the picture closer. Good. We have the two faces here. Now, space is the object around and between space refers to the area around and between the objects. Right? It can be positive and it can be a negative space. Now, the positive space are the area occupying the object, whereby is the face. The negative space is the empty space between the two objects. Right? Do you think you understand? Now, for example, in the classroom, right? In the classroom, I'm standing here. What are my negative space? Anybody can tell me what are my negative space? Yes, Doris?
Make the space the areas around you.
Good, it's the areas around me, right? And the positive space is wherever the object is taken up. Right, class? Okay, good. So we're going to move on to this image right here. To finish discussing all the elements of art, I have a piece of artwork here, and I would like you to identify some of the elements that we discussed just now, right? So you can identify by showing the raise of your hands what are some of the elements we discussed.
Nathan wants to go.
Yes, Nathan. Okay, circle, okay. There we have all the moons here and the arts and so forth, yes. Anybody else? That's one of the elements of art. Well, you said circle. So circle represents the shape, right? Which is an element of art. Anybody else? Yes. Doris? Lines. Yes, that's also one of the elements of art. To see how the lines, but here we have a different size. Remember, you can use square, whatever size you want to use, right? Anybody else want to go? Yes, sir, Narayan?
Sarah said.
Yes. Let me hear Sarah.
Sarah said texture.
Texture, exactly. You see the texture on the grass and the road. The grass is very furry, I think, probably. The road is very rough and so forth, right? Yes. Anybody else want to go?
Color.
Color, yes, exactly. That's very nice. Lovely of you. So, for Today's assignment, or we have a practical to do with you in class. So you have to actually do an art piece for me. Miss Christine, you can help me share out some of the papers. And you have to include about 3, not more than 3 of the elements of art in your art piece. Right, class? Not more than 3 elements of art. So while you're thinking what you want to draw, myself and Miss Christine will mark the register. In the meanwhile, you're doing your art piece.
Alright, here we have our first student's work. Okay, so we're seeing a lot of incorporation of the elements of art. Alright, we're seeing the use of geometric and organic shapes. We're seeing a bit of texture in our plants. We're seeing color being used. Alright, we're seeing value being used on the roof. Alright, so I love how you identify your elements and you are able to show them in a work of art. The only advice I'll give you is to work on the form and the realism in your work of art. If you're representing something in real life, then you need to know exactly how that thing looks to do a good representation of it. Alright, so good job, keep it up. I love this work. Okay, and here we have our second piece of artwork. This student has chosen to do something like a still life composition. Alright, so we see here another identification of the elements used. We're seeing shape, color, form, value, and line. Alright, so I'm loving this. I'm also loving the variation in the shading and the value. Alright, and keep it up. Some more work is needed, but so far so good. Good job. Recap. So we would have learned today that the elements of art are the building blocks of an artist's work, right? And without them, we cannot. It's impossible for us to create a perfect, not perfect, but it's impossible for us to create our work of art. All right. Art, line, shape, form, color, texture, and space. All right, class. All right, students. So this has brought us to today's class. Now, I really enjoyed your interactions today in class, and I am glad that we were able to learn so much about the elements of art. All right. Now, I would like to encourage you in the future to continue practicing the elements of art in your work, as well as you have a homework. Now, for homework, you'll create another art piece, and you will try to include as much art element as possible. Alright? Now, to give you an insight in our next lesson, we'll be looking at the principles